Howdy there, Void. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jocelyn.
And you're listening to episode 3 of Escape Expeditions, a podcast where we talk about escape game reviews, recommendations, and industry nonsense.
And today we're in the car.
Yes, we are on the road today. Literally.
But first, here's the jingle.
Jingle, jingle.
Starting route to Escape Expeditions. Continue listening for 45 minutes.
Welcome back. So today we have taken this podcast to the streets and we are on our way to play 2 games up in Jacksonville.
Because it seemed like a perfectly reasonable last-minute decision.
Absolutely, because, you have nothing to do on a Tuesday afternoon, and it makes perfect sense that you're going to drive 2.5 hours to go play 2 escape games. Right?
So yeah, to Jacksonville we go.
So while we're on our way to Jacksonville, I thought we'd talk a little bit about games that we played in Jacksonville in the past and our thoughts on how we think these games are going to go.
Yeah, we haven't played that many Jacksonville games, but there also isn't a huge market of games there in general.
Right, yeah. I think when we first started playing and we kind of ran out of the Orlando games and we started looking into playing in Jacksonville, they had maybe only like 2 or 3 different venues at the time.
Yeah, I think so. I think now there's maybe like 4 or 5 venues. So today we're going to go to One Way Out and Mindbender.
Yes, Mindbender escape rooms, and we're going to play 4 Kingdoms, which is definitely not stolen IP of a certain 7 Kingdom realm HBO show.
Yeah, and the video definitely did not have tiny map-related things similar to a certain intro of that HBO show.
Or a very elaborate chair with a lot of cutlery attached to it.
Yes, definitely not.
But, we are going with an open mind, and we're very excited about it. And what are we playing at One Way Out?
We're playing Rendezvous. So One Way Out is similar to some of the venues that we were talking about last week, in that a lot of their games have an interconnected story. So we're jumping into the middle of the story to try Rendezvous.
I'm not terribly up to date with what their story flow is with their games. Because the first game we played there was like The Patient, I think.
Yeah, I don't know
and
how that
it's
works.
some kind of hospital theme, and then somehow there's like a jail one that we played that's somehow also connected to the story. So I feel like at least the ones we played in the past, the story connection is very loose. But nevertheless, I still, appreciate the concept of trying to connect all the stories together.
Yeah, I think the 3 most recent games are supposed to be very interconnected. I think the end of Rendezvous is the beginning of Black Site, the game that is directly after that. So if Rendezvous is good, we'll definitely have to try Black Site in the future.
Yep, but for today's trip, we thought it might be more fun to play at 2 different places. Mindbender is one we haven't been to in quite a few years, right?
Yeah, we played 2 games there. We played the cabin one, Woodshed.
The Woodshed.
And also Jack the Ripper.
Yes. And I remember this day very vividly in my mind because story time, I'll tell everyone about the first time we actually played in Jacksonville, because once upon a time, I was a undergrad student that wanted to become a doctor, and I needed to take the medical college admissions test, or MCAT. And if you don't know what that is, that's good. You shouldn't know what it is because it's horrible and it will ruin your life.
It's a very, very scary, intense test, basically.
Yeah, it's a test that basically determines what you're going to do for the rest of your life, basically. No pressure. Anyway, so I took this test, and the day that I got my score back, I was obviously very anxious about it, and I got the score back, and it was not very good. It's actually pretty bad, and I was really upset about it, And Jocelyn knew that the one thing that would cheer me up would be to go play some escape games. And then we decided to drive to Jacksonville, and I think we played 4 games in one day. This was all like a last minute thing, like playing one right after the other, just to like get my mind off the fact that I thought my future was in shambles.
Which is definitely not true now.
No. Fast forward in the story, I am currently in my 2nd year of medical school, so it all turned out fine.
Yeah.
But at the day that we went, it was a nice distraction from what I thought was the impending doom of my future.
Yeah, and we had never been to the Jacksonville area to play games at all before, so we just picked 4 games at 3 different venues.
Mm-hmm. Basically at random. We found the 3 venues that had availability for that day, obviously, because we were booking the games in the car as we were driving there.
Yeah.
And we ended up playing, the first one I think was the Woodshed at Mindbenders, and then we played Jack the Ripper at the same venue, and then we played The Patient at One Way Out,
and we played at Breakout, right?
Was that same day?
Yeah, we played Hostage.
The Hostage? No, I think that was the day that we played at
you're right.
Mastermind, the bank heist game that you really liked.
Maybe we played 5 games.
Maybe we did play 5 games. We played bank heist at Mastermind, and then we also played the kidnapping at Breakout, which is now I think like a national chain. Like they have something crazy like 40 or 50 different venues that are springing up all over the country.
Yeah. So out of those games, personally, I like bank heist the best by a large margin, I would say.
Tell us about it.
So obviously, we have played a lot of bank heist games. It's a pretty common theme, or like heist games in general.
But steal the ruby.
Yeah.
Steal the money.
Steal something valuable.
Steal the things.
All the things. Steal the art. Anyway, so this game really was the first game that felt like we were breaking into a bank for real. You walk in and the alarm system is going off, and like you have to figure out how to deactivate it immediately, and there's like a teller situation set up. It feels like you're walking into the front of a bank.
Right, the lobby of the bank.
Right, yeah. And then the game continues from there, and hopefully you make it into the vault and all this stuff. And all of the puzzles, for the most part, were very bank related, I would say, and what you would actually have to be doing to break into places. There are a couple of wow moments.
Yeah, because when you're going to break into an actual vault of a bank, right, the key is not just going to be sitting somewhere in a drawer at the bank. You're going to need to find a more creative way to get in, and this venue pulls off a really convincing and fun way to make that happen.
Yeah, and a more realistic approach that feels much more actual bank robbery and much less escape game.
If I remember correctly, this game also was one of the first where you actually, when you're stealing the money from the bank, one of the objectives is to steal the most money you can. Am I thinking of the right?
Yeah, so there are 2 games now that we've played that are like that, and this one was definitely the first one, where a secondary objective basically is how much money you can steal. So we had like duffel bags, and we were opening boxes that just had cash in them, and we were like putting all the cash in duffel bags, like real bank robbers.
Yeah.
And your score was also tallied by how much money you got.
Super intense.
Similar to the game that you are also thinking of, I'm sure, which is
the contract at America's Escape Game. I believe.
They also have a similar mechanic where you can do bonus puzzles to get more money to increase your score.
Right.
So overall, the gameplay I loved. The production value was awesome. Immersion was almost awesome all the way through. So there's one issue for me with this game, and that was the clue system, which completely tarnished our experience.
Well, I mean, if you listen to our last episode, we talked extensively about a iPad clue delivery system at a venue that was in Tampa, and this venue has a similar type of mechanic, but You want to talk about exactly what is different about it?
Sure. So this venue has QR codes next to all the boxes and
throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
On the walls, on the puzzles, just little stickers of QR codes everywhere.
Everywhere. Well, to be fair, it has been a while. It's been a couple of years since we've been to this venue. So potentially, maybe
that could have changed.
That could have changed by now. But yeah, so when we went there was QR codes everywhere. And you, the player, had an iPad, like a handheld iPad, to go with your bank robbing, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Every bank robber has their trusty iPad.
Yeah, and if you needed help on something, you scanned the QR code, and then the QR code gave you a pre-generated clue. But the catch, okay, is that every time you did this, it subtracted 3 minutes from your overall actual time. Like, not adding time onto your total score, but like if you had 60 minutes and you asked for a clue, it went down to 57.
Which, in my opinion, is never okay to take away actual gameplay time from people who have paid you for an hour.
Right, exactly. It's a real shame, too, because the game is great, but
we had so much fun, and it was so different from what we had played up until that point.
Right, but if I recommend it to anyone now, I have to put a disclaimer on it that it lets them know that this is how the clue system is.
Also, the disclaimer on this podcast is we haven't been in a few years, so it might have changed, it might have not. We can't confirm or deny.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. I can totally understand the desire to want to make some kind of different clue system to maybe you can have less people, less operations cost, your customers are getting instant feedback whenever they need a clue. You don't have someone sitting there trying to type something out and everything is pre-generated. Mm-hmm. It says what you want to say. That I can understand. But it's just the execution of it, I think, was flawed in the sense that everything else of the game was like flawlessly immersive.
Yeah.
And, looked like you were actually robbing a bank and all that. And then there's just random QR codes and a random iPad. I don't know.
If they integrated it maybe some way into their story, like you had a tech guy on the outside and you had a phone, and when you texted him what you were working on, you had a pre-generated response that was a clue or something. Like, yeah, that would have been way cooler.
And that doesn't take any extra money to implement either, because they obviously spent the money buying the iPads for their clue system.
Right.
So, anyway, it's just those little things for us make a big difference when you're kind of nitpicking at a game you already really like.
Yeah.
So something a little bit more seamless, I think, would have put the game over the top.
Especially when number one on your list is customer experience.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, it's very important to me, right?
Yeah.
Personally. But this is a podcast about our opinions, so, I mean.
Right. But yeah, we loved the game. Clue system.
Could use some work.
Yeah.
And that was at Mastermind, right? And I think we've played most of the games there now, as the years have progressed. Maybe there's one or two there that we haven't played. And what about One Way Out? The first game that we played at One Way Out, I think, was on the low part of our list of what we had played from that day. I'll leave it at this, that there is a Elsa Frozen jigsaw puzzle in this game that you have to put it together. Why? I don't know. The object of the game is to save some patient, I think, that's in a surgical suite.
Yeah.
In the room next door, and you're here in the lobby putting together a Frozen puzzle.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let that speak for itself.
We're going back because they're making new games and we've heard great things about them, so we thought they deserved a second chance.
Yeah, we always love supporting local businesses, and we'll go back to play even just because we have nothing else to do and we love doing it so much that we'll go anyway. But yeah, we've heard great things about their new games and we're really excited to check it out.
Yep. So we'll talk a little bit more about Rendezvous and how it compares after we play.
Yeah, absolutely. And same with the definitely not IP stolen Kingdom of the Chair games that we're going to play.
Definitely will not have dragons or magic or zombies
No.
or the king of the night.
Winter. It's probably going to be summer themed, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be a
It'll be like the long summer is coming.
Oh my god, I'm going to choke. Yeah, anyway, so we're obviously very hyped about playing that, and we'll give you all of the not spoiler-free details on our drive back home.
Yes, but one more thing before we go, for now, I think we should talk about Escapeexpeditionscontact a little bit.
Sure. What's Escapeexpeditionscontact? Tell the listeners.
So Escapeexpeditionscontact is one of our favorite venues in the Jacksonville area, but it's not in Jacksonville at all. It's in St. Augustine.
Yeah, which is, not in Jacksonville at all. It's about a 40-minute drive from Jacksonville.
Yeah, but it's on the way.
For us, it's on the way because we're coming from Orlando.
Right.
We like to lump it in with the other Jacksonville games simply because there are no other good games in St. Augustine. Currently, and we can't do an entire episode just on St. Augustine if there's only one venue that we want to talk about.
Right. Escapeexpeditionscontact has 3 games currently, and our favorite was Asylum by a large margin.
Which, as I've heard, is actually an unpopular opinion.
Yeah, because it's their hardest game, probably.
It is. It is very challenging, and I think that they have changed it a little bit since we played to make it a little less challenging.
Yeah, so when we played it, it was
11 out of 10.
11 out of 10 and 15 out of 10 on the immersion scale, I would say.
Absolutely.
Now, it's a split start game, and we played it just the 2 of us. So, if you were really in an asylum, you would not be in a padded cell with someone else. You would be by yourself.
I mean, you would also be with all the other thoughts in your head, Jocelyn.
You're right. They had it, though. The immersion was there. There were thoughts in my head.
By the end of this game, we left with a couple extra voices in our heads than what we started with.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you start this game, you start the whole experience outside in the hallway, essentially. Your game master, who is escorting you to your padded cell in the asylum, just like you would if you were actually going into an asylum, needs to give you your medicine, right? So
Absolutely.
Before you walk into the game, you are presented with a little cup with some medicine in it, and it's actually Skittles. In your twisted brain, maybe it is real medicine, who knows?
And you get hospital bracelets.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so from the very beginning of the game, you are a patient.
It's not a game anymore.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out. And I always, whenever I recommend it to people, I recommend it as a duo kind of situation, which makes it way harder, but way more immersive. So like most split start games, there's a huge emphasis on communication from one cell to the other. But conversely to most games, in this game, you can't hear the other person, so you have to figure out how to communicate with them.
Which makes complete sense in the story, because in a padded cell, you can't hear what's going on outside of it. So you have to figure out how to solve the puzzles when you can't hear the other half of your team.
Yeah, and the puzzles, like most split games, are split between both cells.
But
But yeah, so I definitely felt like I was going a little bit crazy in all the right ways.
Haha, tagline for the new game. Hashtag marketing.
Escapeexpeditionscontact, are you making a new game?
We want to play it.
We will drop everything to go play it.
Yeah, we're really excited. We love Escapeexpeditionscontact, and their other 2 games are nothing like the Asylum.
Yeah.
They're actually a nod to the history of the city of St. Augustine in general. And what I mean by that is they're
set in like actual historical buildings.
right. Yes, exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
Would you like to say it?
They the first game is set in the fort, which I think is called the Castillo de San Marcos. I'm like 85% sure that's what it is. And if you've ever been to St. Augustine, it's,
It's a giant fort, hard to miss.
It's a giant fort, yeah. It's a big tourist attraction. I would like to add that I have a picture of Jocelyn pretending that she's holding it up in her hands. Maybe we'll post that on social media so you guys can see that. But anyway, the game is kind of integrated in with the history of St. Augustine, and that is a very unique thing that we don't really see in many other places that I really enjoyed as part of these games.
Yeah, definitely.
The second game is...
Oh yeah, the second game is also really good.
Yeah, it's set in a lighthouse, which is less heavy on the history than the fort game.
But a little bit heavier on the scares.
Yes, it is a little bit spoopy. It's like a lighthouse and the attached little cabin to the lighthouse.
Yeah, and you start outside and move inside.
Right. I believe that one is called Save the Fleet.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the really cool part of this game is also an immersion element. Shout out to Escapee's immersion overall.
As a concept.
Yeah. But your game master is actually communicating to you through the spirits.
Yes, I did remember this. This was really fun. One of the big elements of the game is that there are a lot of spirits and you are being terrorized by some.
Yeah.
And the game master is sometimes helping you, sometimes trying to steer you along the wrong path, but in character as these spirits that are
haunting the game and the lighthouse.
Yes, exactly.
And you.
Overall, we just wanted to mention Escape You as part of our Jacksonville tour because it is one of our favorites to visit when we're in the area, and we just wanted to give it a shout out.
And it's Jacksonville adjacent, especially for us.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, anything you want to say pre-game?
Pre-games, well, let's see. Thinking about the venues that we're going to go to, I kind of sort of have an expectation in my head of what the games are going to be like. But, I mean, that's not to say that they cannot exceed my expectations or, maybe fall a little bit short. But I think from what we've heard from other people who have recommended these games, that they should be pretty good.
My goal is that these games are an improvement on the previous games, another step in a better direction.
Absolutely. We always love seeing a venue get a little bit better with each game that they make, working on things that they could improve from feedback and previous games that they've put out there. That just goes to show that they're listening to customer feedback and that they actually care about improving their product and improving the quality of the experience of their customers, which, as we all know, is one of my most important things.
Yes. All right, so we will check in again with you once we're back in the car on the way back after saving the 4 kingdoms
Not
from
7.
the long summer.
What happened to the other 3 kingdoms?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
They're with Arya on that boat.
No. And maybe we'll even come up with some fun jingle to play in between while we're playing.
Oh yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Here's the fun jingle.
Or not.
Recalculating. Jocelyn and Anna are playing an escape game.
Hello, friends. We have returned from our adventures in Jacksonville. And as you can see, or maybe not if you're only listening, it is now dark because the passage of time is inevitable. And we are now on our drive back to Orlando, and we have approximately 2 hours to go.
Yep. So, we're going to talk about the games that we played. Well, the game, singular, that we played.
Yeah. So, there was a little situation with what our original plans were to play one game starting at 5:30 and another game at a venue 22 minutes away at 7.
Which we admit was cutting it a little bit close.
So we ended up being pretty late to our first game, 15, 20 minutes late. right?
Which we don't normally do.
No, we do not recommend being that late to any game. So, moral of the story is, we called them and told them we were going to be late, and then we get there late, so we start playing almost immediately. We're going to jump in the car and drive to the next place. We put the venue in the GPS, and we were going to get there a solid 20 minutes late. So we just called them back and said that we would just reschedule and come back another day. We do have one game to talk to you all about, and that is the one we played at the first venue, which was
Mindbender Escape Games.
Mindbender. Yes, and this was their Four Kingdoms game, which was very similar to a certain HBO TV show about dragons that we talked about before the break.
Yes. So we're going to break down that game for you. So the story of the game is pretty simple. Each of these four kingdoms has a certain item or magical talisman or something that you need in order to stop the long night, I think, or whatever they're calling it.
I think, the long night. I was not terribly...
No, that's the real name. That cannot be what they called it.
I think that's what they called it.
I don't think so.
We'll have to double check. But essentially, you had to find the four objects for the four different kingdoms and put them together on this pedestal, and somehow that would save this tragic event from happening, whatever they may have called it.
Yeah, stop the undead coming over the wall, basically.
That was definitely not part of the video, but
That's what they said.
you said something about the undead?
Yeah.
Alright, well, that's pretty similar to the real thing.
So we're going to use those categories. So what did you think about the production value? I thought it was pretty good overall.
Yeah, I did. I liked it when we walked into the room. It was kind of like a chamber in some kind of medieval castle type vibe. It had like stone walls in places and wooden walls in other parts of the room. And clearly there was elements of trying to make it seem in theme with the dragons. There was a puzzle that involved like the shape of a dragon, and there was coat of arms on the wall with giant weapons that looked really cool. And overall, yeah, I think that impression upon first walking into it was pretty positive.
Yeah, their lighting was pretty good. I think the music definitely could have been louder. I remember we could hear them outside briefing people for a room that was next to it. They should have had their background music cranked up a little bit higher.
Yeah, but maybe the game master can't really tell how loud the music is in the game, so I think that's a negative overall. I mean, they had music, which I think is better than some other games we played that,
Right.
It's completely silent the whole time and there's no kind of ambiance that's trying to be set.
Yeah, and they were at least trying with their lighting. It was pretty decent.
Yeah.
Second is immersion.
I'm going to say that this game was kind of weak on the immersion.
Yeah, it was. There was light music, as we mentioned, and the lighting was okay. The clue system was just a normal TV system. It had a TV with our time on it, and then our game master could talk to us over the speaker system.
Yeah, so it was basically one of those situations where you just had to scream at the ceiling and say, hey, we need a clue, and then she would pop on and tell us whatever our clue was.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily immersion breaking, but it wasn't anything special either.
No, I mean, I think it was just fine is what I would use to describe it. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't anything out of the ordinary for us.
And the puzzles, this is more in puzzles, but it affects immersion as well. The puzzles were more like loosely Game of Thrones themed, rather than being like things that you would need to be doing in that particular situation in order to find a talisman.
Right, which if you've listened to our previous episodes, you could probably tell that we are really into puzzles that actually fit in with the story world and actually have tasks that make sense within the environment that you're in. I wouldn't say that all of the puzzles in this game are in that kind of realm.
Realm.
Yeah, I did not even mean to say that. Yeah, realm, I meant to do that. It was all kind of, like you said, just regular puzzles that were just themed to be in a dungeony, medieval-y type of world that had pictures of dragons on it.
Yeah, and I will say, it was, like, very directly Game of Thrones related. It wasn't, like, loosely medieval-themed game. It was definitely...
It definitely felt like they were trying to capitalize on the fact that people like Game of Thrones, for sure.
Right.
We've been beating around the bush a lot, but, I mean, it was called Four Kingdoms. There was an Iron Throne in there.
Yeah, which looked cool.
Yeah.
As far as production value goes, if you have an Iron Throne in your room, that's super cool.
Yeah, so if you're into Game of Thrones, I mean, this is definitely a room to check out if you've been wanting to sit on a giant throne made of knives. Yeah.
It's made of swords.
Oh, swords. Clearly I'm not a Game of Thrones person.
Swords made of Valyrian steel.
Okay, alright. We're not going to get that deep into it.
I don't think it was Valyrian steel, though.
No, it was definitely plastic. But the point is that we appreciate puzzles that are more task-based and more story-driven, which we didn't really find in this game. That's not to say that we didn't have a fun time, and we were, like, breezing through the game at the beginning, and I was having fun, at least.
Yeah,
I can't speak for you, obviously. But, I mean, some of those things, I mean, obviously I like it more if it's more, those things I mentioned, but that's not, I mean, I still liked it. I still had fun doing it.
Right, and as far as puzzles go, kind of what you were saying before, the puzzles at the beginning were much more intuitive. There was a pretty cool take on a jigsaw kind of puzzle that I liked a lot, and the puzzle that you did, like with the tower situation,
Yeah.
was also really fun, and not directly Game of Thrones / Four Kingdoms related, as far as like a task you would need to do, but definitely worked.
Yeah.
The biggest downfall is there was one massive puzzle that we just got frustrated with.
To put it into context, we were going through this game very quickly, and we got to this particular puzzle with 30 minutes, if not more than 30 minutes left in the game, and we still could not finish the game in time because it took us this long to complete this particular step.
Yeah, and we asked for a clue on it.
We asked for 2 clues on it.
Yeah, and it probably still took us like 20 minutes.
And also, of note, the clue that they gave us for this was not a clue at all. It was just giving us part of the solution.
Yeah.
And then when we called for another clue, the second clue was also just a little bit more of the correct solution. So there was no... I mean, in my opinion, that's not a clue. That's just telling you what the answer is.
Right, of course. Just because there was no way to give us a clue on it.
Right. So, essentially, it took us the remainder of the time to try to figure this out.
Yeah, to put it into perspective, we were talking to the game master after the game about it, and she said that when she was training, her boss told her that if she could complete this particular puzzle in 10 minutes, that he would buy her dinner.
And ice cream.
Because it never happened, and she said she was doing it for 30 minutes and then gave up.
Yeah, so, in my opinion, that is a sign of a broken puzzle.
Yeah.
If there are multiple groups going through this game that can't solve something in, 10 minutes, maybe a little more than 10 minutes, that puzzle needs editing. That it's not appropriate to have, 10 puzzles in a 60-minute game, and it take every group more than 15, 20 minutes to solve one thing.
Yeah.
That's just outrageous.
And we solved the first 7 puzzles, probably, in
25 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It was rough.
And also, we lost on that particular part, and in order to win, we only
solved
had...
that particular part. It was just the step after that we lost.
Yeah, there was half a step left in the game, and that was the end. So
I said the solution to this puzzle out loud.
Yeah.
And then we ran out of time.
Yes, this is true.
Anyway.
So, I mean, overall, our experience, what would you say about that?
For the puzzles? For the rest of the puzzles, I would give it like a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
That puzzle I would give a negative 12 out of 10. I hated it.
If that was on a scale of negative 12 to 10, you'd give it a solid negative 12.
Right. I also think it would have been fixable. Like, I don't like the concept of the puzzle in general, but if they would have given you parts of the solution or permanently solved, then at least it would make it possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This also goes back to the fact that we are a 2-person group, and this game was meant for 6 to 8 people, but the area around this particular puzzle was not big enough for more than 2 or 3 people to stand around.
No, and we had solved everything else that we could solve in the room, except for that thing, and we were both working on it. There wouldn't have been space for more than 2 people to be working on it.
Yeah, there's no way you could have 8 people crowded around that trying to solve it at once.
No, everyone would be yelling at each other.
Like we were yelling at each other.
I know.
Our board game master was probably like, yikes, the whole time she was watching us try to do that because we were just getting more and more frustrated as the time was going on.
Yeah, but I'm sure she has seen people break down trying to do that.
Oh, yes. I have seen many a team get super frustrated during a puzzle. I can relate.
Yeah.
Hashtag relatable.
Yeah. But I would give the production value probably like
an 8 out of 10?
Maybe a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the throne was super cool.
Yeah.
They had windows that made it look like you were looking out onto a mystical realm. The quality of the coat of arms on the walls looked really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
So in that regard, I think that was one of the strengths of the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The puzzles definitely needed editing, needed some work towards the end. But
even though the other 2 puzzles, 2 of the other 2 puzzles in that second room were less puzzles that they designed and more like they bought a particular prop that worked that way.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, it kind of goes in theme with the way that they created the remainder of the puzzles too. It's just kind of like a puzzle that they kind of slapped on the theme on top of it.
Yeah,
exactly. Instead of being a puzzle in theme.
Right.
So, yeah, I can see that. It just kind of seemed, like they bought the prop and they kind of did, a design on top of it and kind of made it in theme that way. But, I mean, they're still fun. That doesn't mean they're not fun. They're just not in theme. And we clearly prefer puzzles that are.
Yeah, I would definitely say that I enjoyed this game more than the other 2 that we had previously played at that venue.
Oh yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. The fact that the last time we had played at Mindbender was probably a solid 4 years ago at this point.
Yeah, I think 3.
Yeah, it's definitely better than the other 2 in my opinion, which were, I think, the Woodshed and Jack the Ripper were the other 2 that we had played.
Correct, yeah.
And yeah, I think that the production value is clearly a step up. And the puzzles are also a step up, even though, I mean, we're kind of being critical about it, but...
Yeah, but it was definitely an improvement.
Yeah, thinking back to the puzzles from the other 2 games that we had played, these were definitely more intuitive. We didn't need a clue on anything until we got to that, horrendous puzzle that we're referring to at the end. But everything else kind of flowed seamlessly, and we were able to logically reason through all of the other puzzles pretty easily.
Yeah, and it was fun. Besides that puzzle, we had a lot of fun solving the rest of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do agree with you that I think that this game was a solid step up from those ones we had done previously.
Right, which is great for the venue. And to their credit, they were very accommodating in the fact that we were late. Which was definitely on us. I get mad at people all the time for being late, but you still try to accommodate them in a way that makes sense, right? And Mindbender was super cool about it.
Do you know what other offerings they have at Mindbender?
The only one we haven't played is Jewel Heist.
Jewel Heist, yeah, I remember they did have that a few years back as well, and I think they also have a pirate game.
Oh, really? I don't think they had that.
Yeah,
there was that pirate game on the wall, or whatever, on, the window.
Yeah, I think they have a pirate game. We probably should do our research before we start putting all of these fake news into the internet.
They may or may not have a pirate game, unconfirmed at this point.
The point is that they still have other games that we have not played.
Yeah, and now we definitely have to drive back to Jacksonville to use our credit.
Yeah, for the other game that we rescheduled.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for our detailed review of Rendezvous at One Way Out whenever we decide we have enough time to spend 5 hours in the car again.
Yeah. Maybe we'll play another one. Maybe we'll play Black Site afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to come all the way out to Jacksonville to only play one game.
Which is what we did today.
Right, but we were planning on playing 2 games.
Yeah, I know.
We just didn't end up playing 2 games.
Right.
We ended up getting dinner instead, which also, just a note that when we decided to drop everything and drive to Jacksonville, we had not eaten anything. I had not gotten anything done, in terms of productivity. We just decided we were going to get in the car and drive, and we didn't realize until we were about halfway to Jacksonville that it was going to be probably 8 p.m. by the time we got out of these games, and we were not going to have eaten anything all day.
Yeah, well, that's because that was the only way the times worked. In order to play 2, the only way we could do it was 5 and 7:30, and it was 2 o'clock at the time.
Right, so if any of you were wondering, yes, we do prioritize escape games over food.
Yeah, we probably should rethink that.
Definitely should have rethought that. But, I still had a good time regardless, and it all worked out because we played one game and we got food, and we're still going to come back and play the other one some other time. Do you have any final thoughts about Jacksonville in general, the games that we played in Jacksonville, or new venues popping up, anything like that?
Oh, the Escape game opened a Jacksonville location.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but we clearly have already played there, because they have an Orlando location. But I'm curious to see what effect it will have on the market, because they make reliably quality games.
Very high quality, very immersive, great games that we love.
Right, so maybe some of these smaller venues will start aggressively trying to create more higher quality games to compete.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't think it will have a negative effect on the market.
I mean, a concern would be that the escape game may take some business away from these local venues, but I think really more good games being open in the same venue is just a positive thing for all the local people, because if someone who has never played an escape game goes and finds a great venue, they're going to play games there, and then they're going to think, oh, look, this other one is maybe a little bit closer to me, and maybe costs a little bit less, and I will go there too, because I really like escape games based on my experience at this other place.
Yeah, definitely. New escape games opening is always a good thing, also.
Yes, of course. We are going to say that always.
Yeah, so maybe when we come back to play One Way Out, we'll also play Mastermind, who we talked about a little bit, because there is a game there that we haven't played.
Yeah, but I think the game that we haven't played there is some time travel related.
Yeah, time travel.
And I think that game has been there for quite a few years, so we'll see how that stacks up to the other newer games in the market.
Alright, anything else left to say about our impromptu Jacksonville adventure, besides how sad you are that we only played one game?
I'm not super sad that we only played one game, because I know that we're going to come back and play 2 more, and it's still going to be just as fun.
That's true, we gained a game, if you think about it that way.
And my wallet decreased a game.
Yeah.
So overall, if you live in or are planning a trip to the Jacksonville or St. Augustine area, there are definitely a lot of games that are worth checking out and worth your visit.
I would agree. It's a growing market, and I'm excited to see what else happens.
Indeed. So until next time, we are still on social media.
Our account still exists on
Yes,
Twitter.
and we would love for you to follow us at ESC Expeditions on Twitter or at Escape Expeditions on Instagram. We also have a Facebook page, and on our Buzzsprout site. You can find our email address, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but definitely shoot us an email if you want to give us any suggestions on what you want to hear, or if you just want to say hi.
The email is escapeexpeditionscontact@gmail.com.
There you go. The information from the person who really knows what's going on.
It's true. Also, all this information is in the show notes.
Ah, yes. Check out the show notes. So, Void, I hope you're doing well.
We're going to continue our 1 hour and 21 minute drive to get home.
Yes, we are. Because we don't have another choice. Thank you for listening to our 3rd episode of us on the road.
Is there a different jingle for that? Probably not.
I don't know. That's up to you. You're the jingle maker.
Yeah. We'll see. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned to right now to find out if the jingle is different.
All right. Adios.
Your destination is on your left. The end of this podcast.